Hey y'all, welcome back. So it has been a little bit since I've got to sit down and do kind of chatty style video talking about homeschool curriculum, but the house is quiet for a little bit today, so I thought I would sit down and get this video recorded. I love to talk about homeschool curriculum, but I just don't get to make the videos as often as I would like to. Before we jump into that, my name is Haley and I have 3 little boys, 2 of which are homeschool age. We have been homeschooling for about 3 years. And several months back, I posted an update video talking about the curriculum choices that I had made for this year and how several of them were not working for us. And in that video, I mentioned that I was going to be changing out a couple of those picks. Some of the things we decided to stick with, even though they haven't been our favorite, we decided to stick with those just because we had already gotten to the routine of using them. But a couple of them just had to go. And the 2 things that we decided to swap out were both from Christian Light Education. In that video, I kind of mentioned why it wasn't working for us, but if you're not familiar with Christian Light Education, it's very workbook heavy, and that was just not the type of learning style that this particular child needed. So it was his math and his language arts that we decided to swap out. And we actually ended up purchasing curriculum for both of those subjects from Simply Charlotte Mason's website. So in that update video, I also mentioned that I have just been trying to better understand my teaching style, my children's learning style, basically develop a philosophy of education. And I have always been drawn to the Charlotte Mason approach to education, but I've been very confused by it. So I've spent the last several months kind of digging more into it to get a better understanding of what it is, what it isn't. And we're actually going to be kind of revamping our entire schooling system here in the next couple of weeks. Because we finished up like our history curriculum and all of that from the other programs we were using, and I'm going to be transitioning into more of a Charlotte Mason approach, which I'll make a separate video about. But I wanted to share with you guys the math and the language arts components that we are using from Simply Charlotte Mason right now. We have been loving them so much. It has been a game changer for my oldest son whenever it comes to math and language arts both. He no longer is as frustrated by the amount of workbook pages he has to do because he has no workbook pages. As we go through the books, I'll explain how each one of the programs works. I was very kind of skeptical at first how you could teach math without worksheets. You're going to see that this looks so simple and straightforward. And I guess with me coming from a public school education, all I really have known about the way that we are taught things is through worksheets and workbooks. And so this approach is so natural to learning and it just makes sense. It's different and it can seem like it's not enough whenever you look at it, but it's really just a natural way of learning. So I'm gonna stop talking about it. I'm going to grab the actual books and show you what it is that we're using. It's Simply Charlotte Mason's Arithmetic book number 2. I've actually already purchased book number 3, and I'm going to do an unboxing type video for that for you guys to show you because I purchased like the whole kit. But I went with book number 2 for him because this is where multiplication and division are introduced in here, and we needed to keep working on him memorizing his multiplication facts. So I went with level 2, and as you can see, this is it. It's just this one book. This includes like the teacher's guide, it includes the questions and everything in here that your student is going to need. The only other thing that they have to have is a piece of paper to write on, and Simply Charlotte Mason sells this math notebook with the gridded paper that we've been using, and they can just, use the squares on there to write out their different equations and things like that. The reason why I think this has worked so well for my son is because it does not involve a lot of writing. And it actually tells you in here that you don't want the act of writing to overtake the act of math. So we do handwriting and copy work and all of that is meant to focus in on the actual formation of his letters and his numbers and things like that, and building up that skill of actually writing. But when we sit down to do math, I want it to be just focused on math. And I feel like he was getting bogged down in the other curriculums with having to read a lot of questions and having to write out a lot of answers. And he just needs straight math whenever it's math time. And that's what this is. It's straight arithmetic. So you are focused solely on addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And it's just straightforward. It's mostly done verbally. So I'll flip this around. I'll show you a sample lesson and kind of talk through how it actually plays out. So I'm just going to talk through briefly what a lesson might look like for us in this book 2 from Simply Charlotte Mason Arithmetic. So we're going to look at the multiplication table for 6. So this is towards the back of the book. So it shows you here, this is when you're first introducing a multiplication table for 6 to your child. So it gives you the instructions on how to construct the table as well as writing it and talking through it. It also, in the earlier lessons, whenever you very first start on multiplication, it shows you how to construct it using manipulative so that the child can learn the concept in the concrete before moving on to the abstract with it. And then it gives you these different questions to ask your child. So you're asking it in a couple different ways. So 6 taken 5 times is, and then you're asking it as 6 times 3, and then you're asking it as how many 6s in 42, which is kind of introducing division there already, so that whenever they get to the division aspect, it's probably going to come a lot more naturally because they've already worked their multiplication tables forwards and backwards, so it makes more sense to them. So you're going to have the questions that you're asking out loud to the child, and then you also have your answer cue. So you notice that this one lesson has multiple steps. That's because these lessons are not meant to be completed in full. Instead, it tells you to set a timer for 15 minutes to go over the new concept, which may not seem like a whole lot of time, but whenever you're doing this verbally out loud, it goes a lot faster than when the child has to actually read the problems themselves and write it out. This way, you're reading it to them, and a lot of times they're just doing it mentally. But like right here, these are larger multiplication problems, so they can use craft sticks as they need to come up with the answer to these equations, or they can write it down in their notebook. It actually tells you over here which ones it suggests for you to write down, but of course you can take some liberty with this and do what works best for your child. And then at the end of every day's lesson, so whenever you complete your 15 minutes of work with the new concept, you're going to move into mixed review, which is usually going to be over something that the child has mastered really well. And it's just meant to be like a 5-minute kind of rapid fire session where you're giving them these simple problems that they've worked on for a really long time now, and it should be pretty easy for them, but keeps it fresh in their mind. And again, 5 minutes of review, whenever it's done in kind of a rapid fire type of way, you can get through quite a few equations. And towards the back of the book, it gives you additional review questions that you can use at the end of the lessons. And I just love the variety that you get in the way that you ask the questions. It just really helps the child to see how these different scenarios and math concepts apply to various situations in real life. So this just straightforward approach to math without any fluff in there, without him having to be the one to read a lot of word problems or write out a bunch of equations, has just been so great for him to focus in on the math skills that he's needing to learn. So when it comes to language arts, we're no longer doing phonics lessons. He is reading fluently on his own. Of course, sometimes he has to have help figuring out what a word is or something like that, but he doesn't need an actual phonics program anymore. So we are focused more on spelling and grammar for him. I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but he's 8, almost 9. So what I've gathered from Charlotte Mason is that formal grammar lessons shouldn't start until around grade 3 for a child, and that's how the Simply Charlotte Mason program is laid out as well when it comes to language arts. So prior to like grade 3 age level, you're not doing any formal grammar lessons. But this is what I've come to realize with grammar as well. We were previously doing a grammar lesson that would have a couple workbook pages in Christian Light Education, and it would be over something that I can so simply go over out loud with my son in just a couple minutes time. Whenever we're reading a book or a passage, I can just point out different components from this sentence. So things like capital letters and punctuation and compound words. But the Simply Charlotte Mason programs kind of lay it out in the exact same way and just gives you a little more structure and a lesson plan to follow. So what we're using from them, we're using Spelling Wisdom. So this is how he's actually practicing his spelling words now. We're not using a list. He's learning spelling in context, which I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. I'll flip it around. And then to go along with the spelling aspect of it, to turn it into like a grammar lesson, we're using this Using Language Well workbook from Simply Charlotte Mason as well. And I do also have the teacher's guide. Now, what I absolutely love about all of these resources that I have from Simply Charlotte Mason is that they're not consumable. Like, I can reuse the math and these language books for my other two children as they come into these grade levels. Okay, so next I'm going to be showing you what a spelling lesson looks like as well as a grammar lesson looks like. So this is how the spelling is taught. So you have a passage here for the child to study, and they are meant to study this passage, looking at the words, identifying the words they don't know how to spell, trying to take a picture of those words with their mind or copying them down until they are confident that they can copy this entire sentence a couple words at a time without looking back. So at this point, at the beginning of this book, that is how they are meant to study this. But once you get further into the end of the book, they're actually going to start, the passages get a lot longer and the vocabulary gets a lot more complex, but they are going to be actually copying this. You're going to read it out loud to them and they're going to copy it down that way. And that is the difference between transcription, which you're doing up here, where the child's taking 2 to 3 words at a time and just copying it down, and dictation, where you're reading something out loud to the child and they are writing it down without looking at the passage. So this book is actually meant to last 2 years. So the first half of the book, I believe it's 70 exercises, is meant for a grade 3 student, and the second half is meant for a grade 4 student. Now this is how the grammar fits into this. So you can see we have exercise 14 over here, lesson 14 over here. So it tells you exactly what to do. So you're going to turn to the exercise. Why does Miles have an S at the end? Which 2 words in the exercise have 2 syllables? And then transcribe the proverb in your best handwriting and explain what it means. The grammar lesson is not done daily. It's done once the child has mastered the previous lesson from the spelling book. When you introduce the next lesson, you're going to sit down and you're going to do a grammar lesson with them as well. So you may only be doing grammar once or twice a week, depending on how long it takes your child to master the spelling aspect of it. And the teacher's guide does give you the information about how to answer these questions. So like, why does Miles have an S at the end? Or which 2 words in the exercise have 2 syllables? These are things that you've already discussed, like plural words and syllables in words. You've already discussed this with the child in previous lessons. And again, as you get further towards the end of the book, since this is also meant to last 2 years, you're going to get more detailed into the grammar lessons. So you can see here how much longer this page is here for the grammar lessons. And this is probably my favorite part of this curriculum, is this English points journal that's at the back. This is for the child to record the different grammar rules in their own words that they're learning as they go through this curriculum. So again, this has just been a great change that we made in our homeschool that we're loving and that we're planning to continue with. And I am planning a couple more videos to share a few of the books that I've been reading through to help me kind of understand how it is that I want to teach my children, how I want this educational process to go in our home. And I'm also going to share a video of what we're going to be using next year for like family subjects, and a look at the Charlotte Mason book number 3 for the arithmetic series with you guys. So let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.